All right, another SacPy. Welcome back, everyone. It's 2023, January 5th. As you can see, I'm kind of bundled up. It's a little bit cold where I'm recording from, so part of my scarf, but it was a Christmas present, so I figured why not. All right, we got Robert on camera. Howdy doody. Before we get things started today, a nod to our founder, Josh Miller. Got us started back in February of 2017. Passed the torch off to me in January of 2020. Guess this is going on my third year of running the thing. Kind of crazy. I guess Josh is still out on the East Coast, presumably. Who knows? He moved out before pandemic. Things might have gone completely sideways since then. Hopefully you make it out to one, Josh, but thanks for getting us started. Code of conduct, basically play nice. We've had some jokers in the Zoom space. I think I'm doing an okay job of moderating, but in general, yeah, don't talk over people too much. This is a very accepting place. However, we don't tolerate jokers because, well, we don't have that much airspace. All right, check us out. We're on, actually, some of those URLs might be a little off. I'm going to post some links in the chat. We're on Slack, we're on Discord. This is a Sacramento-based group initially, and we've since expanded to the internet thanks to, here's the Discord link. Oh, can I do that? Oh, maybe not. Why can't, hey Zoom, why can't I use hotkeys while I'm, oh, YouTube. Oh, that, yeah, that's a good one too. Follow our YouTube channel. Let me just copy some links here. Okay, I pasted the thing. Oh, there we go. There's the Discord one. I'm in these if you got questions. It's also a pretty good place to get updates. I record this thing, as you guys can tell. And how do I get a link? Can I get a link direct to the SacTech thing? I think that one should work, actually. Yeah, SacTech./Heroku app or whatever. Anyway, find us on there. It's the easiest way to get the link each time. We're also on a few other outlets. We're on Twitter. We've got a subreddit, which I'm a little wary of. I've posted links to videos there, and people have come in and Zoom bombed us, so it's okay. We're also on Facebook too. If anyone wants to help with any of these, let me know. I'm the only one running them, but looking forward to the day we expand that team. All right, Rob, you want to jump on the camera? Anyone else?
Yeah.
We do every month. We do a screenshot of. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Cool. It's just us, Rob. Thank you. All right. Oh, and last time we were here, we crossed the 1300 mark. We're actually coming up on 1400, but exciting stuff. Basically doubled since I started here. Maybe we'll cross the 2000 threshold in 2023. Okay, so this month we had someone lined up that I think ultimately didn't end up making it. That's okay. So my company kind of sponsors all this production. Brazen Studios is the company. Don't worry about remembering it. And every quarter I do a bit of an update, but I wanted to give anyone who had some show and tell the chance to jump in before I do my thing. Otherwise, speak now or save it for the end. Anyone, Robert, did you have something you wanted to go over, or are you debating how stable your connection is going to be?
No, I don't have anything for this month.
Okay, no worries. All right, I'll load up my next one. Oh, wow, look, I got a background now. Oh no, it's bringing me back to the slides. All right, so quarterly update. Oh, it's not Q4 update. Oh, well, that needed updating. All right, so like I said, my company, Brazen Studios, I'm the sort of puppeteer of this character on the left here with the flames and lightning and stuff. Frymatic, you find me on Discord, Twitter, various other social media outlets, cosplaying as some sort of, I don't know, snark machine. I like to give a quarterly update just to show where we're at. Also helps my accountant to justify some expenses. So sadly, I was a little short, or I was rather a little behind the times. Last time we met, the beginning of December, just a few days prior, a thing called ChatGPT had come out. Before we go into that, has anyone heard about that? You might have seen a little bit on the internet. In any case, in certain corners, people are saying, "Oh, this is going to be the Google killer" or something like that, because it got really quick traction. They got to like 1 million users in a week or something like that. And if you're unfamiliar, it's based on this technology called GPT. That stands for Generalized Pre-trained Transformer. Which is a way to generate language. And I guess they've used it for images too. I did a little thing on this thing called DALL-E last October, but this one is a little bit more texturally oriented. It's by this company called OpenAI. They came out around the time that Google open sourced their toolkit called TensorFlow. And it's currently run by Sam Altman. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the name. He was the president, I think CEO of a group called Y Combinator. I actually remember his work from, I think he's around my age, but I remember his work from when I was in one of the first like local mobile apps. It was called, oh, did I just do something funny with my audio? Wait, I'm gonna put these in. All right. Okay, that seems to be working. In any case, he's running this thing, OpenAI, and I think they're getting a round of funding at the moment. It's going to put it at some astronomical value, but yeah, this tool is really cool. I recommend everyone check it out. I'm going to post a link for it in the chat. There's that. Oh, did I never put the black one in? No, that's okay. Okay, so the ChatGPT thing was, I figured it was worth presenting this time because, well, last time it had only just come out, but since then I've linked back up with one of the companies I contract with, a solar energy company called Blue Sky Energy. They're based out of Roseville. They were doing some work with, well, they help to install solar. They work with the contractors. They work as a sales and marketing type firm, and then ideally they're working with people that might want solar or might want to help them sell solar. And so they gave me this project and said like, hey, we're trying to get a list of all these salespeople that are currently contracted out of California. So there's this group, the Contractors State License Board, CSLB, and they had a list of, they had lists of lists of lists. They have a pretty nice data portal for a lot of it, but one of the sections is salespeople, and those are listed in a numerical order, but there's no good way to get a simple like CSV output. So if you want to get them, you have to go page by page. So I figured, hey, what better project to do that than something to do with Python. And this ChatGPT thing came out, and I figured, well, maybe I can prompt it to
to scaffold this thing. So here's what a page would look like. I think I'll post a link to what one of those looks like. Maybe there's a good way to, or a better way to do it. But post the link in the chat. Click on that. You'll see this little down the way. You know, it's got the person's name. Sorry, Mr. Gum, for putting your name on blast, but whatever. I guess you're in a public portal anyway. It's got their details and their number, you know, when they got it, when it expired. Obviously, this guy's not going to be selling solar anytime soon. His expired in 1990. So, you know, not exactly the most valid. And as it turns out, you know, there were a lot of these. So I ended up going through, you'll see the link I posted in chat. It's also at the bottom of the screen there. You can see that the license number, HIS registration in the middle of the page there, 179640, is a part of that link. So it's HIS license number equals then that. And so I figured, hey, you know, let's go from the very beginning, start at 0, and then we'll scrape through this thing and just go page by page. And so what I ended up doing was I was working with this client that, you know, they're not the most like technologically oriented. So I didn't want to give them their own data portal. I just wanted to give them a simple like spreadsheet to work with. But then also this is the sort of guy that like, you know, will ask you to email him an email that had an attachment on it because he doesn't want to search through his email inbox. So the general concept was I'd scrape this thing from the internet and then just dump it into a Google sheet. So if he was interested in seeing it work, he could do that. But also I could see it work and I could run it from my phone and all of that. And then when he follows up to ask me for it, well, you know, just send him a link to it. So ChatGPT looks kind of like this. The first line there is what they call a prompt. The second is the output. I don't know if anyone's jumped on chat yet, but it's pretty amazing. Code is one of the things you can do with it. People are using it for all manner of things. They're using it for writing stories. They're using it for turning the web into an actual just like computing platform. And there's just ways you can do that with ChatGPT. Say like, hey, act like a text-based adventure game, and then I'll use the prompt as my input, and it'll play a game for you. In this case, I thought it was reasonably well structured, write a Python class for Google Sheets with methods for each client function, and it spat out this, you know, pretty standard class organization. And so I gave it a whole bunch of things like that. And good news is I think we're all still pretty okay as far as employment goes. You still have to know how to stitch these things together and need to know how to recognize when something is, you know, not secure or just not going to work. So, you know, the robots haven't taken our jobs just yet, but if you know what you're doing, this should serve as an accelerant to your work. So let's see. Do I move on from there? No, I want to show you guys what this looked like in action. I'm going to pull the code up real quick. So let me change my share. I can do like multiple windows, right? I might go like that. Oh yeah, there we go. Shift allows me to do multiple windows. Let's bring this up. Okay, wait, I'm gonna try this again. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we've got that, and that. Wait, maybe I want to go like this. That, and that. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Okay, I tried to share 3 screens. How is that looking for you guys? Robert, you mind unmuting? Can you see all three? Or are they layered over top of each other?
Yeah, I see the console in the foreground, then your spreadsheet, and then well, yeah.
Okay, so it's not working exactly how I thought it might. That's okay. All right, so basically, do you guys see the virtual studio?
Yeah.
Sorry, Visual Studio.
SPDF scrape you wrote yourself?
Yeah, sort of. I basically piecemealed this through. So that prompt that I showed you was one of several prompts that I stuck together. Maybe I should do a better breakdown where I go through each of them. So this was essentially what I just showed you. Make a class for Google Sheets.
Right.
I got to a point and I was like, all right, still a little stuck here. So walk me through implementing cheese spread in Python, and then it like created a tutorial for me. It was actually a lot easier to follow along with than the documents provided by Google itself. And then I ended up using Beautiful Soup, which is, for those of you not in the know, Beautiful Soup is a library that allows a person to go through structured data, usually like XML or JSON, the sort of data types or data structures that get like thrown around fairly regularly on the internet, and then allows you to break it down into segments. I used pandas just because I wanted to do something with data frames, but turns out it was a pretty easy way to get stuff. In any case, I'll run this real quick for you guys. Do you guys see the terminal window? So
Yep.
okay, cool. So we'll run that real quick, and then we'll move over to, now is the Google Sheet in the foreground?
It is.
Okay, cool. All right, so as you can see, it's going through and pulling new registrations. And so the script that was running is instantiating this an objective Google Sheet thing. And then it's using a request call to hit each of these pages. And then it's also doing a little bit of logic to say whether or not what came up is alive and well. And so you might see, well, actually most of the recent ones are serial. If you go further back in time, I think there was perhaps a level of manual handling to the bureaucracy, some literal paper, and so there would be gaps in the license numbers where nothing ever got registered. It wasn't expired; it just simply didn't exist anymore. Possibly there was some deletion or whatever, but yeah. So like, this is just running through. It's looking at this URL here. It's running a loop and changing the number and then hitting the page. And if it has anything useful, it'll paste a row to the thing.
So what's the starting point?
The starting point for the script?
Yeah, so you start out with an initial URL, right?
Yes, that would
And
be
so the initial URL is the home page. And no.
Well, it's the page with the structured data, mostly the actual salesperson information. If you dig around on this contractor's state license board, you'll find there is a data portal, but it's only valuable for contractor data and not salesperson data.
Yeah, but
hence the desire for the project from the company.
Right. So in this page, we see data for one salesperson.
Right.
Right. And how do I iterate over salespeople in the database?
So the way I was doing that was this URL here. I think you can see it's highlighted.
It's guessing at license numbers. It's assuming that they're consecutive. Is that what it's doing?
Well, yeah, it definitely guesses and it checks to see whether the information it pulls up are useful.
Yeah, right. So it could be an
sometimes they're not.
Right.
Yeah. So when I initially kicked off this scraping project, I was running into issues on the Google Sheets end because Google Sheets has a rate limit on their API, and so every single row I think is a single like every single row added is a single API request. So each one of these append row is adding a new row as you go along. And so initially I was running into these like gaps where there was no data. And so I was the script was crapping out on the Google Sheets.
So that's a limitation of
season.
Google Sheets as a database.
Oh, absolutely. All right. If you really wanted to speed this thing up, I think, well, for one, you could actually
you're doing it in Python, so you could use Python's built-in SQL database, SQLite.
Oh, absolutely. But this is like a shareable thing, so I wanted to share it to a separate company, and didn't want to have to walk them through, access to some database thing. They know Google Sheets. They don't know anything about SQLite. So yeah.
So if you dump a SQLite database into Google Sheets all at once, how would that work?
I think that's maybe one of the solutions is in order to make things a little more streamlined or to not hit as many hit the API limit as quickly. That's totally a way to do it. So a little further forward here.
What do you look like you imported pandas into one of your scripts? Are you using that as kind of an intermediate structure between the scraping side and then the upload end, or was that for some other purpose?
Yeah, it was an intermediate layer because I just wanted to mess around with the data frame. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary, but it was, I guess, a little cleaner just to go straight from beautiful soup into a data frame. And
So,
data frame.
So where does pandas actually get called?
Now you're asking the hard questions. Pandas gets called. What do we call it? Yeah, I used the soup. Or I'll just switch over.
Yeah. So you can. So if you have tables, let's say I've got like 10 tables in an HTML page, I can use pandas to scrape all those tables like lightning fast.
Yeah.
But if it's not,
that was basically what I was doing.
If it's not an HTML table, you're then you got to do something else.
Yep. Well, I won't say this was the most optimized thing, but what was cool about it was the project came up and I was like, all right, there's probably some super fast way to do this, but I want to try this ChatGPT thing out. And the time it took me to get from something like the general concept to something that was working was like hours, where it could have been, or maybe, I won't say minutes, maybe like an hour or two, where that could have taken me like a day or two. And yeah, it's not super clean. Look, I was doing this garbage here.
Yeah. The challenge is how do you use ChatGPT effectively, or even better, how do you use the API for GPT-3?
Oh yeah. No, GPT-3's API is paid right now, right? Like that's how they're making money. I think maybe. Maybe not.
I think it's supposed to be free because I think there's supposed to be like a free. I was looking for. I thought I pasted a free project so for using the GPT-3 API so that you can use it interactively instead of just, you know, using it to generate chunks of code offline.
Sure. Well, that maybe I need to do that for an upcoming project. That would be cool. But yeah, I only had a few more things I wanted to go over. Any other questions about that that use of ChatGPT to outline code?
I
Just,
have a question. Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't particularly have a question directly about that. So if you had a question about ChatGPT, I had a question more about scraping. So
Oh,
if you
either way is cool.
first on a ChatGPT question, I don't know. I was more interested in what makes it hard to scrape, because there's something I have to implement, and one of the requirements is to try to make it as hard to scrape as possible. So what was getting in your way? I heard Rob said that if it's not an HTML table, it's harder.
I don't think that's
yeah.
really, that's not really a frustration for an expert scraper. It's just that you don't have this quick and easy solution. But it's not like for someone who's willing to, you know, to put in a little bit of effort, that's going to really frustrate them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing to scrape, if it's got a DOM, you know, you can get to it with Beautiful Soup, you know, but if it's a dynamic page, right? If it's calling to a backend that's updating the page through JavaScript, then now all of a sudden it becomes a much more and something like Beautiful Soup can't even get you there.
Exactly.
So, but if it's in HTML, you know, you're not going to obfuscate it in a way that isn't readily accessible through something like Beautiful Soup. But if it's not a static page, then it can become a headache. But that means it's also a lot. I mean, that's a lot of work as a developer you would need to do to just try to avoid getting scraped.
And it stops people from printing or otherwise copying the page to a local drive, for example, for reference purposes. For example, we're sharing links here on the chat. You wouldn't be able to make a copy of a web page that's been dynamically produced.
So this particular project, they're really interested in being the reference and gating that, which I think there's stuff wrong with that, but they've done a lot of work to get the data, get all this raw data to a usable state. So I wonder if more JavaScript.
Yeah. It's
would be
probably
the answer.
one of these things where you could totally do it with a Python backend and just generate HTML, but then it'd be easy for people to copy. So you have to do it in this like super complicated way to make it so people can't copy it. You have to use a React front end or something like that.
I was kind of thinking of using React with like styled components, because they generate gibberish class names every build. Also, that seems like it add an extra level of complexity.
Yeah, but it still has the data. So if you're worried about certain numbers appearing and being copyable, then that's not going to help you. What you could do is you could present it all as a graphic.
No, that's a really good suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, that's kind of
So
evil.
I'll tell you, Facebook will still be able to read it.
Yeah, that's right, because you can do OCR, right? Optical character recognition.
I see people who are like trying to talk about forbidden topics by having an image, and they go like, oh, they flag it as, you know, our information checkers haven't approved this. So unless you use like a weird font, it is still possible. It might actually make it easier to scrape that way.
Oh yeah, you could just present all of your content as like a CAPTCHA. That wouldn't be annoying.
That'd be
Unlock
terrible.
this cell. Solve this puzzle to unlock this cell.
Yeah, exactly.
27,000 more cells in this page.
Yeah. Then you could make like a
Maybe,
CAPTCHA farm.
maybe it would be better to restrict the people who are looking at the data through some sort of membership scheme, if they're worried about having data on the web that anybody and everybody could look at and copy.
Yeah, that's their idea, but then what they're worried about is that someone will pay the membership price to scrape it and then use it somewhere else. And I don't know how far they want to go into more complex solutions to prevent that, but at least some kind of basic tricks to make it not super easy might be good enough for now.
Is it all of the data, or is it particularly perhaps one column of data, or a few fields across a whole screen?
So this is a startup that was started by two people who are really good data analysts, and they are really in love with statistics. So there's a lot of data everywhere. It's kind of
your other
the
approach
same way, but there's a
might
bunch
be
of data.
okay. Well, if you're used to HTML, you know that you can have a background, and then you're putting your text or other images on top of the background. The other thing you can do is you can put an image over the top of the page. So if you put an image over the top of the page and the image is entirely transparent, anybody who tries to do a copy paste ends up trying to copy that cover image.
Huh. I don't think it would have stopped my scraper though.
No, I don't think it would either, Woody. I think you're because you're looking at the HTML underneath.
Yeah, but you could do the image thing where you turn the content of the pages into images, right? Like you could turn it into PDF or something. No, PDF is highlightable, but like turn it into PNG.
Show more than one page.
Yeah, you could have a PNG for each digit and each character. You could do that, but once again, with your tool, Woody, it would not be a terribly difficult matter to identify which images stood for which letters, and do a translate for you as well as doing a scrape.
Well, if you're really serious, then break the letters up, like split all the letters in half and put that on one image, and then put the other half of the characters on the other image, and then you place them on the screen. It'll look like a solid characters, but then if you pull each one individually, you won't know because they'll be all half characters, or cut them in quarters or something. But that'd be crazy. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love all these suggestions. I think a lot of them are not actually worth the implementation cost, but I think something's going to come up from the combination of all of these that would be useful.
If you're going to put information in the public arena, you can expect the public are going to want to read it.
I mean, depending on their business model, I mean, there's a lot of people that would pay for a REST API to get the data and not have to scrape, and then the HTML changes and they gotta go fix their scraper. So I mean, I think part of this comes back to how do they plan to monetize their bright ideas, and maybe some sort of acceptable amount of loss is worth it to them in exchange for whatever that business model looks like. I mean, having implemented scrapers in the past, I would I've worked for companies that would gladly pay something reasonable not to use a scraper and to use a REST API. So, but again, this comes back to, how do they plan to make their money?
Yeah, well, as far as I understand, the only plan is memberships, which basically entail access to the data. That's their whole plan. And I don't know what, it seems like they're more targeting like regular consumers rather than a business, and more people who are just gonna look up a specific topic that they want the data on.
Are you at liberty talking about the type of data this is?
Yeah, I think so. It's sports data.
Huh.
So they are trying to get their particular sport more like something like baseball, where the stats are crazy. People love the game just for the stats.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get that and sell it.
So they're getting it from some data source, and then they're presenting it to their members.
Yeah, so they've collected, I think it was like 100 years of data, and they put that all, and the idea that they're trying to do is to help people be better at the sport, or help kind of see trends where if they're attempting this or that, they're going to do better or worse based on all of these statistical models that they applied to all the data that they collected. Like I said, this was started by people who are very, very heavy into data for the last decade or 2 decades. So
Yeah,
it's
so
what they love.
They want to slow down, and they don't want to make it easy for people to just vacuum up information from the system. They want people who have a very specific questions to be able to extract to get answers to those questions, but they don't want people to be able to just vacuum up all their data, right?
Yeah, exactly. So something that I probably wouldn't want to do otherwise to make things extra slow might be a good idea in this case.
Well, remember how Woody was telling us it was not part of the contract. I suppose one has with Google. I don't know. Don't use it. You can do the same sort of thing. So leave the HTML behind, leave the data analysis behind, get right down to the network level. And if you have somebody, and this is what Rob was saying, if you have somebody who's making an inquiry, who won this game, who won that game, or how many games did they win this season, there's a limited number of hits against your server for that sort of an inquiry. And that is quite a different pattern to a web scrape, such as Woody described a moment ago, where he's repeatedly hitting the contracting website to ask for data on individuals, and over several times a second. So that's a continuous pattern, whereas people sitting on their keyboards typing stuff in, that there's quite a period of time between their inquiries hitting the server.
I love that solution. I think that might be the best one so far. Because yeah, you're right. Once they search for something, the amount of data that they're going to see for that thing, there's no reason that they should search for the next in line or the next topic. There's plenty of work to be done on just on that page. So I think I might have taken enough time with this. If people are still interested in talking about it, this is an interesting subject, but I think, Roger, you had a different question at the same time.
Yeah,
so-
Obi, we can pick that up at the end.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I went to Chat GPT when we were talking, and I asked it, how can I protect the data on my webpage from web scrapers? And it gave 5 answers. You know, the use of CAPTCHAs to protect the page that has the data, because that requires a manual step to get to the data. It's clever. JavaScript challenges, limit the amount of data displayed, IP blocking, and the use of a CDN. I tried to cut and paste the answer into the chat window, but I guess it was too verbose. But interesting, you know, parallel to our discussion, ChatGPT came up with some viable proposals for how to protect your content.
Yeah.
But I was going to, you know, back to, you know, when Woody was saying how he used ChatGPT for this project. I just wanted to see if my understanding was correct. It sounds like you were not as familiar with the Google Sheets API as you were with some other aspects of the task, and so you used ChatGPT as a sort of a guide to that part of this, and then
Yep.
by using it, you know, the basic question to get started, and then more deep dives on specifics. It enabled you to use Google Sheets for your client in a way that would have been, you know, more difficult and time consuming if you had to just depend on the existing documentation.
Yeah, exactly. I was using it as kind of a scaffold, and then kind of a, I don't know, auto aim on syntax, because, you know, I can follow along with a tutorial, but if I'm jumping back and forth between an IDE and the REPL and then the website where I've got the documentation, and then I've got everything else going on in life that could pose as a distraction, then, you know, getting from that first snippet of code, and ChatGPT's spitting out blocks of code if you ask for them, to, you know, something that actually works. Just, it's not that I couldn't have done it before, it's just it happened way faster, and so I was able to get to the next part. And yeah, I guess I had a general idea of what I wanted to do. I knew there was a website, I knew there was some elements of it that were regular. And Mark, to answer your question, Mark asks, are you doing any data validation for the data pulled from the HTML table using Beautiful Soup before you feed it to the data frame, Pandas data frame, like defining a schema? So yes and no. I guess yes, in that the schema I identified in the usable pages was there was a regular set of data that was spit out: the name, the address, the phone number, all that. No, I didn't actually implement that in the code. I just simply identified the area that was regular. If you look at any given one of those pages, you'll see that there are a number of contractors associated to each salesperson, and that I would do some data validation as you're suggesting, so that I could identify when I'm pulling, you know, more than one contractor. So does that kind of answer your question? It's like the validation was I chose the one thing that was regular, effectively, and then basically, oh, okay. Yeah, so if the structure of the HTML page changes, it does. It changes for the contractors section, and so I would do some validation there. I think I would perhaps identify just like the number of lines. Vivaldi IGP. What'd you send there, Roger? Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute. That's the ChatGPT screenshot for how to, you know, its guidance on how to reduce the risk of getting your data scraped.
Oh, very cool. Man, we got pretty close. I don't think anyone said CDN. Maybe. We pretty much got the rest. Good work, team. Although, how fast did ChatGPT spit that out? Like seconds, huh?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, you know, we're a group of burgeoning experts, and it took us a while to discuss. Meanwhile, Roger put a handful of words for a prompt in there, and it spit out all of that in just a few seconds. Pretty impressive stuff, I'd say.
Yeah. Kind of ironic. ChatGPT helped you on the scraping end, and then it turns around and helps on the protection end.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very literal demonstration of how technology can be a double-edged sword. All right, so let's see. Do we want to talk about scraping anymore? We can talk a bit more. I've got just a handful more things that I used ChatGPT for. This was more like, here's what I did it for, and then the next one is what I'm working on next. But it's not scraping, so. Obi, did you have any more on scraping you want to go over?
No, I think this is going to give me plenty to work on for the next week or two.
Awesome, good to hear. All right, so continuing on with the applications for ChatGPT. For some time, I've been working on putting together a video game. I worked at a games company back in San Francisco. I worked at a handful of them. But one of them had this thing called Game Creator, and allowed you to make these basically web-based text adventures. And it was a little bit more than just text. I think there was some degree to which you could upload images, but effectively I started cobbling together a storyline, and then didn't really do much about it because I recognized, well, I want to build this myself. I know I have the wherewithal, but I'll have to build the chops. So I've been cobbling things together kind of in backwards order. Working title is Red Eye Game. And I was trying to come up with what the genre would be. And so I came up with what the genre would be and saw what, and I thought I'd ask ChatGPT what its impression of it was. So the MMO IRL RPG, massively multiplayer online in real life role-playing game. And then the idea is that it utilize some measure of interoperability. So yeah, so more on that later, but I thought I'd give a little nod to it since ChatGPT helped me with the description of it a little bit. The idea is it'll be a cross between Pokemon Go and Dungeons and Dragons. If that does anything for you, well, let me know. And then finally, before I close out my little update here, there's a group I've been hanging out with online called the Singularitarians. They're all about the supposed impending singularity of AI. They're going to be, one of the guys that runs that group is going to be presenting out of South Florida over Zoom in a meetup group. His thing's going to be ChatGPT for coders. It's been kind of fun to watch him come along. When I first got to know him, he was just sort of like a tech enthusiast, and has since turned to self-directed study and has built a few things, and he's been really running with ChatGPT. So next Wednesday on the 11th, check it out. Posted the link in the chat. But yeah, so that's it for the quarterly update. As always, people are welcome to present anything they've got, whether it's something prepared or something they just wanted to show off. Oh, Mika, nice hat there. What's up, Max? I see you guys on video. How's it going? That's an awesome hat. Nice toque. But yeah, so we can go over some more ChatGPT things if you guys want. Get back on to scraping. Also, the floor is open if anyone wants to share. All right, let's see what we got for ChatGPT. Let me log in here real quick. This one's always fun. Working. So I think there we go. All right, so ChatGPT is really the name of the game today. Here's the general interface. Things you can ask. Explain quantum computing in simple terms. Creative ideas for a 10-year-old's birthday. How do I make an HTTP request in JavaScript? It can remember what you said earlier in the conversation. Allow user to provide follow-up corrections. Train to decline inappropriate requests. And it is limited in that may occasionally generate incorrect information. I saw some article talking about that. Confident bullshit. Oh, that's kind of funny. Used that a few times since. May occasionally produce harmful instructions or biased content. Oops. Limited knowledge of world and events after 2021. So that'll be interesting when that becomes more up to date. Okay, so is anyone not familiar with what is called a text-based adventure? Basically, it's a style of video game that is just played out over text. It writes a little description for you and maybe gives you some choices, and then you make your choices in a prompt, and then it gives you the update. So one thing I thought was funny was you could take ChatGPT and turn it into a text-based adventure. So all right, so act as the text-based adventure Zork. Sure, I can help you play a text-based adventure game similar to Zork. Do you have a specific game in mind, or would you like me to create one for you?
You should probably have it create one based on your favorite Python library.
Okay, make one based on the pandas library. Oh no, it's already confused. I'm a researcher at a panda conservation center where you study and care for pandas. One day you receive a request from the World Wildlife Fund to investigate a group of pandas that have been spotted in a remote, unexplored part of the forest. Set off on your journey, excited to see these rare pandas and learn more about them and their data frames. As you hike deeper into the forest, you come across a fork in the path. To the left, the path leads uphill and seems to be more difficult to navigate. To the right, the path is level and much easier to follow. You go left or right? Where do we go? Left or right? Left it is. Decide to take that. Okay, so I don't actually really want to play this game based on a panda conservation center unless this takes a turn into data science. I think we got it off a little bit. But it's, describing in reasonably clear English scenery, keeps tying into the pandas concept. Well, one of the pandas stands up and roars at you. Do pandas really roar? I don't know, ChatGPT. Yeah, maybe this is all just confident bullshit.
So one thing that I'm not sure if you tried that I found had a lot of good luck with is you can input stuff as like a variable. So you can say like things that I'm interested in, and you can pass it an array. So just say things I'm interested in like all caps or something, equals array that has stuff that you're interested in, and say build something based off that, so it gets more potential inputs.
Whoa, wait, you're saying you've done that on ChatGPT?
Yeah, and it works really well.
That's cool. Oh, that's pretty advanced. I was doing simple things like write a Python.
We're gonna learn that next week in ChatGPT for programmers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Write a Python for loop. Oh no, I need to get more.
It might still be thinking about pandas.
Yeah, that's true. You're like, it's like I thought we were doing a text adventure. That's that wasn't one of my solutions. Okay, there we go. Write a for loop in Python, print numbers between 0 and 10. Oh yeah, look at that. And then it gives you these like boxes that have got the code, and you copy the code and just dump it into something. It's pretty cool. Okay. My name is Woody. How about that? What's my name? Oh, sweet. All right, this is something relatively new. And I guess you were saying things I'm interested in, you could give it that and then it would work from there. Previously, it wouldn't keep track of what it had said or you had said to it, but now I can keep track of my name. Pretty good. I've seen another group, they made it act as a like a command line interface, and they had it keeping track of a file system. They had it acting like Vim, and storing code and then executing Python code. It was pretty impressive. But yeah, all right, enough of that. Cool.
If you gave it a short Python function, could you get it to write some tests for you?
Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I could I give it tests based on the Python one? Let's see.
So if you gave it a Python function, take in two values, X and Y, and return the result X divided by Y, and you asked it to provide tests, you would expect to see a test which made sure that Y was never 0, because you cannot divide by 0.
Okay. Okay. Function calculate the division of two values X and Y. And then it kind of interpreted my. Well, that's not really a unit test. That's mostly. It's mostly just a.
Oh, it's still going.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, now we're doing our unit test. Perfect. There we go. How about that, Deanne?
Well, what might have been fun was to actually give it the divide function without the if statement, just the def line and the return line, and then ask it to write unit tests without giving it any hint about divide by 0.
Okay.
That's not legal. Oh, yes.
There we go. That's pretty good.
Yep. That's pretty good, isn't it? Look, positive and negative numbers plus the 0 special case.
Not bad. All right, there we go. And it explains them too. It's pretty good. Like, how fast is that? That's crazy. I mean, obviously that's a fairly standard case, and it's probably been written about in so many different ways. And this like test or these like code snippets probably exactly exist in a number of places. And so it's just trained on that. But you know, if you figure you got an individual who can recall that relatively quickly, they're still gonna have some issues just typing it all out or digging up the file where they already have it. Where this is just taking a few seconds and spits it out perfectly, pretty much. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It's a trivial case, but next time we're working on a project and we write a function, you know, we could throw that in and see what it does with original custom code.
Yeah.
It's obviously worth having a play.
Yeah, and I mean, for now, this is free. Presumably, at some point, this is going to cost something based on how they did their work in the past with DALL-E. DALL-E was free, and then eventually became kind of freemium. Like you can still use DALL-E if you're unpaid, but the number of prompts you can get it in a given month without being paid is, you know, relatively restricted.
And ChatGPT can also handle a lot more complex code than divide two numbers. Like I had it create a context for me in React, and it got pretty close. It had some issues with the typing in TypeScript, and it was really convinced that it was two wrong answers going back and forth between them. But other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool tool set. All right. Should I pull up any more ChatGPT things, or we could do that all day? Oh, you know what we should do? Leet code and ChatGPT.
Oh, that's just depressing if you've ever failed the leak code interview, because if you realize you could have just copy and pasted into ChatGPT and had a commented answer in 2 seconds.
Yeah, right. All right, let's see. Okay, so string to integer, medium difficulty. Implement the MYA to I string function, which converts a string to 32-bit signed integer algorithm as follows, reading, ignoring, leaving white space. All right, so guess I can just copy this part. Let's just try that. Okay, and if I switch tabs, can you see ChatGPT now? Is it still
Yes.
on? Okay, cool. All right, so this is string. Or leaving white spaces. All right, so I guess I would just need to change. Oh. S would be input string. Maybe that works. Try that. Well, first test, pretty good. You passed all the units. No, wrong answer. Okay, So not infallible. And it's pretty good though. 1,026 out of a possible 1,083 test cases.
Yeah, what you do now is you just copy that and say like, hey, it's wrong for this. And with a few cycles.
Okay, and then whoa, it was off by 1. That's weird. How about all right, I got the wrong answer. Variable is not being checked against the pounds 32. Returns the results out to the range. Here's the updated version of the function that fixes that issue. Okay. All right, so we'll see if that works. Again, we need to update. Oh, I guess I won't need to update that because I already did. Oops. I copied the whole thing, didn't I? Did. Oh, what the heck? Okay, never mind. Okay. All right, because white space matters. There we go. Let's try that. Oh, it still did the same thing. I thought you updated yourself there. Or did I not do that right? Maybe I just pasted the same thing. Oh yeah, that seems like I just pasted the initial one. Oh man, if the main setback was just straight up user error, couldn't like properly copy paste. Oh no, it's still doing the same thing. Thought it fixed itself. All right, so here's the part where you have to know what you're talking about. Okay, so let's see. Going through, takes an input string. Equal to blank. Yeah, well. Okay. The result variable is not being checked against the bounds of the 32-bit signed integer range before it is returned. Instead, the result is being clamped to the range after it is returned. Any ideas? Oh well, I guess I got that one wrong. Someone said something in chat. Oh yeah. Yeah, Mickey says just stare at the ChatGPT screen. Sometimes I have so many choices. I have analysis paralysis. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure that out. That was a good try. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave the floor open to announcements. If anybody's got anything, now's a good time to chime in. But that's what I've been up to, playing around with ChatGPT, trying to make it work. The good news is, if you're in development, well, you've got a while before that thing takes your job. So stick with it. But use it, definitely. I highly recommend. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave this thing running if people want to mingle and talk about what they're working on. But if not, we'll wrap up. Thanks again for
I'll jump
coming,
in,
everyone.
Woody, if I may.
Yeah, all right, Dean. Yeah, now is your time.
And now is the time. Yeah, we are running a Python training idea. A lot of people try to learn Python a bit at a time and can have difficulties trying to make sense out of it all. Other people go off on courses, and of course you will be aware that there are internet training courses available. The problem with courses is that you have to turn up every day that they're running the course at the specific time that they're running the course. The problem with internet training and books is that you have to keep applying yourself, otherwise you end up failing, dropping out. And that's the problem with internet courses, that we have the highest dropout rate of any type of training. And those of you who don't know me don't know that I work on the edX platform and I run a few training courses, strangely enough, nothing to do with Python. What we are doing is we are trying a little experiment, and we are putting together a cooperative of people who would like to learn Python. And very much hoping Rob will be one of our members, but you might like to join as well. We're going to do courses with the University of Michigan, UMich, on the internet, but we are going to meet regularly and compare notes, help each other, make sure we don't hit any brick walls, try and figure out when people have a problem understanding something in the course, try to help people who have a problem writing code. Writing code's the only way you proved you learned your Python. Yeah, generally a little bit of a social time as we have been having this afternoon, this evening. So if you're interested, yeah, please let me know. I will put my details in the chat, and if you're interested, I will happily send you some more information by email. Is that enough for you, Woody?
Yeah, I think that should be good. Yeah, keep posting me on email. I'm assuming I'm just on an email list. I've been getting emails from DN on this one. But yep. Now that the holidays are past, it should be a little bit easier to keep things posted on the SacPy end of things. My intention is to put an event on there just to forward to your things. That way, get a couple more people in and give the SacPy membership something more to look at.
Yeah, so we will be gathering for a meeting New Zealand Wednesday evening, which is still Tuesday evening next week in California. So if you're interested, we are starting pretty soon. So yeah, now is the time to strike while the iron is hot. Thank you, Woody.
Yeah, and thanks again, Dan. All right. Well, anyone else got anything they want to go over? Got any projects they want help on, or where you're stuck, or whether you're just trying to figure out how to get started? Okay, no problem. Thanks for joining us. You've turned your residence into a maker space. Nice. How many 3D printers do you have? All right. Well, it seems like that might be the end of our content for tonight. Thanks everyone for coming out. We run this every first Thursday of the month. Hope to see you there next time. And we'll send out details for DN's Python training course. Thanks everyone. Happy New Year. And I hope you all have a good 2023. We'll see you in February.
Thanks all. Thanks, Woody, for sharing. Bye.
Yeah, and thank you, Roger. Have a good one.